All right. All right, we're back. This is wrong. This is actually part 2, but I'll update this later. All right, we're talking about a couple things now. We've moved away from that other presentation, and we're moving towards one of the ones that we're going to be using from the book, right? And if we look at lesson 4, which is kind of a chapter from the book that I've kind of put in here, it's all around making builds. You guys have been working on, you did your first playable for the most part, and then what ended up happening is now you should be working on your alpha release, right? Now I'm laughing because I know that not just you guys, but some of the teams from the first section are struggling with that, right? And the reason for that is because it's the most difficult part. It's adding all your features and everything else. And we want to talk about the actual build process and what are build notes. I mean, multilingual builds we can talk about really briefly. I'm not going to really test you on that. Build notes is what I really want to talk about, and the build process, those two pieces, right, in this presentation. So the idea is that you, in a professional environment, you would be creating builds on a regular basis, okay? For us, what I want you to think about is when we say build, I want you to narrow it down to release, okay? But release is, you're going to do release like 4 times, right? One for your playable, your first playable. You're going to have a alpha release coming up in a few weeks, which we're going to talk about. You've got your beta release, and then your release candidate or final release. But every release has iterations. Each iteration can be considered your build in our context, all right? So what I mean by that is, what's an iteration? It's when you add or a particular feature set to the build that came before, or you fix bugs, anything that basically changes your product from what it was before to what it is now is this new iteration. And you're always moving towards this idea of another release. So just curious, for those people who remember, what am I looking for in your alpha release? What am I looking for? How about I ask this team over here? Emma, what do you think I'm looking for in your alpha release?
Two levels, full UI interaction with sounds and stuff.
It's close. I want actually a start screen, for sure, some kind of start screen. I definitely want one full level. It doesn't have to be 2 levels. One full level that's functional, right? That has full interaction, that has full animation. Most of your assets should be available at this point in your alpha release, right? So your sounds, if you have some kind of background music or whatever, all that stuff's going to be available. Your UI for your first level should be functional, and then an end screen. Those are the 3 things I want. If you can have instructions, that's great. Yeah.
Do you want the first level to have all the tutorial stuff built into it?
Not at this release.
Not at this release.
If you want to, that'd be a good step. It'd be good planning to make it that way, right? Because that way you're going to do it anyway. You're going to put in a tutorial level.
Design the layout anyway.
But you don't have to make your first level that you're going to demonstrate at your alpha build your tutorial level.
Right.
Okay, so you can make it so that it's like it'll be level 2 eventually, right? Or it could be the boss monster level that you're going to show me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be sequential or in whatever order. As long as you show me a working level with a UI that features your gimmick, whatever the gimmick is for your game, right? Again, going back to the whole grappling hook example, do I see the grappling hook that I need to use to go from one platform to the other? Then yes, good. Do I feel feedback from the user? Do I get like visual feedback, audio feedback? So is there a visual collision? Do I hear a collision sound? That's what I mean by that. Do I have some kind of simple soundtrack, not too loud, hopefully, in the background, right? An updated PowerPoint, definitely an updated PowerPoint you need to rank out. I don't need you to when your PowerPoint, like you did a great PowerPoint last time, and so you guys, it's not like I've never seen the game now. Now it's an update. So your PowerPoint is going to be, okay, here's our update. Here's what we worked on before. Here's some of the feedback we got from you, Tom, last time. And we incorporated some of it. We ignored you when you said this stuff, but we did this part. It happens, by the way. It's okay. Because remember, my feedback is feedback. It doesn't mean that you have to listen. If you really are I don't know, for a particular idea, I only can guide. I mean, it's my opinion, right? But at the end of the day, I'm looking for, do you accomplish what I've asked you to accomplish? Not if the game is super fun. I'm going to comment on it. If it looks really boring or not challenging, I'm going to comment on it, right? But at the end of the day, this is your game. This is your baby, right, that you're making. So there's only so much of my opinion that I can add in as a mark. I'm going to try and keep it as objective as possible, not subjective. And that's hard. So that's what's due in alpha. And the build process itself is an iterative process. Like I said, each iteration, you might have multiple iterations for each build, right? And typically what we want to do is we want to use this idea of the Agile methodology. I've put this little picture here up on Slack for everybody. And I want you to think of it like this. Imagine if I have a feature set, right? Now, for people who aren't here, I kind of drew this earlier today, but I have a feature set. And how do I build out that feature set? It's got to be based on what I want for it to function. It's almost like my business requirements for my game, right? So we build up something called a user story, all right? Before we build the feature. And the reason for this is because it's a little bit more abstract, and then you can have multiple solutions for the same user story. Example, as a user, I should be able to know that my character is being hurt. That's a user story, right? Now, there's many ways to approach that. I could have a UI that's non-diegetic, which means it's going to have hearts at the top of my UI, and every time I get hit, I lose half a heart, right? That could be my interpretation of that user story. Or every time I get hit, the screen goes red, right? That also could be a way of me knowing how that the user knows that he's been hurt. The more detail you put into your user story, the more chances are the closer you're going to get to what you want, right? So these user stories can be converted into features, right? And they usually have some kind of weighting associated with them. Usually we call them story points, right? An example of this would be, well, the story points are a number of hours or number of days, depending on what organization you're working in and how complex the feature you're building, right? For us, let's say it's a number of hours. So let's say this idea of the user understanding that he's getting hurt is worth 4 hours. We assign a value of 4 to it, right? Okay, cool. So I have this one user story, and it's going to go on something called the product backlog, right here, right? So the product backlog is where we put all of our user stories before we actually decide any kind of features. Now, you may have not started this way when you were doing your initial release, the first playable, right? But think about it going forward. So I got all these things that I want in my game. I've listed them off in this idea of a product backlog, and I've weighted them with a number, 4 hours, 3 hours, an estimate. It doesn't have to be accurate, okay? Because we're not accurate. We try as best to be as accurate as possible. And then think about weighting it. Think about a priority. How much of a priority is the user understanding that he's being hurt? What would you think the priority would be? You guys over there, what do you think the priority is for someone the user understanding that his character is being hurt? How high of a priority? High, medium, or low? Pretty high, right? So we have this idea of I have high, medium, or low priority for my user stories, right? And I'm going to try and knock off all the high priority user stories in something called a sprint. So I take items from my product backlog. I have my entire product backlog in sticky notes on a board, as an example, right? And I take these items from the product backlog and I included them something called a sprint backlog. The sprint is going to be anywhere in the real world, anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, right, roughly. And what we do is we take a number of user stories that we think we can work on as a team within that 2-week period. The number of points that we allocate combined for all those user stories, we call something called a sprint velocity, right? These are just technical terms for Agile, okay? By the way, this is not a project management course, right? But I'm introducing these things. You should have already heard these things from last semester, no? You guys should have had both an introduction to traditional project management, right? And a little bit of, Agile last semester, if I'm not wrong. Yes or no? Yes? So these are things that you've already heard. So, nice. You guys are playing around now. I'm just going to move off this one. Thank you very much. So what we want to try and do is when it comes to making a build, we got to think about in that iteration, in my sprint, you can call it a sprint or iteration that I'm working on. We don't have 2 to 4 weeks. You guys only have a week, approximately, for each iteration, roughly. If we kind of micronize it into the time you have, right? In that week, your build that you're building that week, you should do a build pretty much every single week now until the end. Okay, this is the point you're at. If you haven't done a build every single week until the end, you guys are behind, guaranteed, 100%, right? Sometimes you might have to do 2 builds. And what I mean by a build or an iteration is think about things we're going to add. So maybe I have features that I want to add. I might also identify things like bugs, right? Defects that come up. Guys, this is going to be on your exam. Defects that come up, right? And the defects is something that the testers are going to have to identify, the QA people. And then we have to squash the bugs, right? We have to fix those bugs in the next iteration or next build. Okay. We need tools to do this, right? And of course, we're going to use GitHub. So let's do a GitHub exercise for a second. I'll do it with you. So let's suppose I have here's this game project that I had almost from lesson 2. It's a little game project that we were working on, right? Right now I have 4 commits, and I want to do a new feature. Okay, I want to do a new feature. I have 2 branches. I have the master branch, and I have branch 0.1. Okay, 0.1 has been merged in with the master branch. I'm going to create branch 0.2. What do these branches mean? These are just iterations. These are just builds, right, that I'm going to be using. Hi, Alex. So then what I want to do is I want to just bring up my folder here. So here's my thing, and I'm just going to pull this into Visual Studio Code. Here's Visual Studio Code, and let's suppose I want to create another iteration. Okay, so another build, if you will, right? First, I want to go into my terminal, and the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to create a branch, right? So you can look at how many branches you have in your version control system, and I can do it by saying something like git branch. Git branch will show me the 2 branches that I have, 0.1 and master. Right now, I'm on the master branch because this is highlighted here, right? And also that this little star, and by the way, this works on both Windows and Mac, just like the same way. The little star indicates that I'm on the master branch, or the master branch has been checked out, okay? All right, I'm going to create a new branch, and the way to do that is git branch, and the name of the branch, 0.2. Okay, cool. And if I do git branch again, what do you think 0.2 has in it? What is 0.2? I just said git branch 0.2. What does that do? What do you think that does? Anybody? How about you guys?
Would it put everything we've had in the master .2 and then set up for the next?
I've just copied everything in the master into a new branch called 0.2. This is the place that I'm going to build up my new feature. Okay?
Clone, right?
Sorry? It's a clone. Yeah, kind of a clone. So 0.2 is a separate branch altogether than the master branch. And I can do any of my experimentation here. I can make a branch that's called bug fix, right? And that bug fix branch is where I'm going to do all my bug fixing, and then I'm going to merge it back into the master. Okay, let's make a change. So here's my my branch. In order for me to activate the branch, I need to check it out. So the way it's done is git checkout, right, and then 0.2. Notice that now I've switched to 0.2, and it also switches it here in Visual Studio Code. All right. Now what I can do is I want to publish this branch, right? But before I do so, I want to make some changes to my code, right? Now, earlier I had added, this is the game canvas, and I want to add another little comment. So this is, kind of something like this, meta tag, meta tag for multiple screen support. All right, that's just a comment I made. I saved it. And now I've got a modification. My index.html has been modified. If I click on my Git here, it shows a modification. I'm going to add it to the staging area, and then from here, I'm going to add a commit. So I'm going to call it something like, modified index.html. I'm going to click on the checkbox, right? And when I do that, if I go here, I can go git log, and you can see now that I have I'm updated my HTML, index.html in the last commit, and now I modified it again. There's two different commits here. Not a great naming, but there's two different commits. All right, so now that I've got my git log, I want to publish this thing. So I'm going to say git push, right? Origin, right? That's the remote, into, I'm not going to push to the master branch, right? I'm going to push to branch 0.2. If that branch doesn't exist, it should create one. Let's check this out. What it's going to do is going to go up there, and it's going to push my branch to the on GitHub to branch 0.2. Going back to GitHub, right? Notice in the beginning I only had these two branches, but now when I refresh, I have these three branches: 0.1, 0.2, and master, right? 0.1 has 4 commits, right? And 0.2 should have 5 commits, right? That means that 0.2 is 1 commit ahead from 0.1, and it's 1 commit ahead from the master branch. Okay, that's what I want you to think about it like. Cool, I want to merge it back in. How do I merge this branch? I've done my work, I've added a feature, right? In this case, I've added 1 commit, but I've added my feature and I want to merge this back in. The first thing you need to do is check out the master again. Okay, so again, git check out master. I'm now on the master branch, and now I'm going to merge, right, 0.2 to the master branch. Okay, and when I do that, it merges it in, and now I can just push it. Okay. So now what I've got is, if I look at my master, my original master, it only had 4, right? But now if I click onto it, it's going to have 5. And if you notice, it has all the commits that I had from before, right? My initial commit, I set up my create.js libraries, and then today, 3 hours ago, I did this one, and now I just did this one. So why am I showing you this? One, it's going to be on the exam. You need to understand what the branch is. What is a branch? It's just like a clone of the master. That's all it is. So there's different branches. It's almost like I'm taking another snapshot of my code and making another compartment, right? Another clone of my code, right? That's what it is. So that's what a branch is. We use branches a lot of times for features. We want to add a feature, we create a new branch. We do not add a feature directly to the master branch. Why? Why don't I add a feature directly to the master branch? What's the logic?
Bugs.
Bugs? What else?
Revision control. So if you don't like it, you can go back to the old master branch.
I could. It's easier revision control for sure. What else? Who else has a, someone else had a hand up over here? Okay, how about you, programmer? Huh? Compare features. I like this. So that's kind of what you were saying, right? So features. Well, the other reason was, what if I break my build? What if I make it so that's I kill it somehow? Even if you go back, it's still not working properly. It's possible with Git. It's hard, but you can do it. And this idea of, if I create another branch, this feature branch I'm making, call it 0.2 in this particular case, and if I break it, it doesn't affect the master branch at all. My master branch is pristine, right? It's kept nice until I'm ready to merge. There's only one person that should merge onto the master, and that's the GitHub director, whoever that is. Usually it's the owner of the GitHub repo, and it's probably the lead programmer in your team. That's the person that should be doing that. Other people can make a branch, right? Work on a feature and recommend by you doing a pull request to the director, the lead programmer, if they want to merge it back in. But he's going to look at it, or she's going to look at it and go, you know what? It's good, or it's not good. And if it's not good, don't merge it back into master. If it's good, then you merge it back into master. This will stop you from having bugs and conflicts, right? If you play the game that I'm passing the baton, if you play that kind of game with GitHub, right? You do a commit, finish, I pull it down, I do my changes on the master branch and push it up, and then you pull it back. The problem with that is I'm always passing the baton to you and you're passing it back. And that's only one person working on it at a time, and there could be possible conflicts, like a bunch of conflicts that can occur. So please don't do it that way. I recommend using branches. So the commands are git branch to see how many branches you have, right? And this up in the video here where I was doing this. So we looked at how many branches I originally had,
right? Up here, the original branch that I had was the 0.1 in master. And then when I specify a branch that I don't have, get branch 0.2, it creates it. It creates that extra space, a clone of my whatever branch I've got, I'm focused on right now, right? In this case, I was focused on the master branch, so it created a clone of my master branch, and I called it 0.2, right? Now I use get branch again, and I can see that there's 3 branches as an example, and now I can check out that branch. Checking out, the word checkout, what it does is it makes that branch active and makes all other branches in your repo inactive. That means you can't add to them at this point, right? You can't modify them. You can't do commits. Okay. So what it means is let's leave my master branch alone, make the 0.2 branch active, and work on a feature or a bug fix in that 0.2 branch. And then later on, we want to merge it back in, and we did that down here where we said, first of all, we checked out the master branch again. So we shifted from the 0.2 branch back to master, and then merged 0.2, that branch, back into master. So the effect is we had an original master branch like this. Now, people who aren't here can't see this, but there's I showed this earlier. So here's our master branch chugging along, right? And we come to this place where I create a new branch. Here's my iteration 0.1. I make a commit, and then I merge it back into the master branch. And then I chug along, and I create another iteration, right? I make a few more commits and merge that back into the master branch, right? Each of these is an iteration, but we're still only doing one release. So each release, again, naming conventions here, right? Each release is your major milestone. When we talk major milestone today, it means your major release. It means your first playable, your alpha, your beta, your release candidate, right? But I'm going to do multiple iterations for release. My recommendation is you do at least 3. 3 iterations, 3 builds for each of your releases. If you haven't got 3 builds for your alpha yet, right, or if you're not there, you're behind, right? Because it means you haven't had enough features and you haven't separated those features enough. And you're actually increasing the risk of your project having a bug, right? Or having unrecoverable broken build. Once you get there's nothing I can do to save you, right? Even if you put it up on GitHub and do all this fancy footwork, you may come to a point where you mess up. And that's why I recommend the whole branching idea. Any questions around branching? Yes?
If more than one person is working on a branch, like 2 separate branches at a time, does that complicate things at all?
It may, but the way to do that is you have something called conflict resolution. So let's say, for example, you work on the UI branch, and I work on the art assets branch, as an example. I do all my art assets in my branch, right? But it's still based on the master branch. So we haven't modified all the other stuff. All I'm doing is you're creating a UI, and I'm doing art assets, right? Okay, cool. You make a pull request to the director. Let's say someone else was the director, right? And that person looks at it and goes, okay, cool. So you add these 4 or 5 commits. You take those commits and put them back into the master branch, right? And now the art person goes, uh-oh, because they're behind. They're like 4 commits behind you, right? So the problem is they have to either merge or move the head of their branch further up the line. So they're going to move their new commits further up. And they can do that. There's ways of resolving the conflict by changing the head of your branch further up, right? For the most part, what you want to do, obviously, is you can do as many of these pull requests as you want. And it's way better to do it through GitHub, not through a command line, right? And you, as a director, can merge these branches back in and do all the conflict resolution online, right? So that way, more than one person can work on your project. That's the idea. Okay, any other questions around this? So again, we want to implement as early as possible. Yes, that's true. But what we want to try and do here is we want to get that milestone build going as fast as we can. A milestone build means right now you should be working on your alpha, right? Is any team not started on their alpha? Okay, you need to start immediately, right? Or we have to fix something that's going wrong with your stuff. The idea of a demo build. Sometimes we've been in a real world scenario, we'll be asked to do a demo build for different areas. Especially when you're in your alpha build, sometimes marketing will ask you for a demo build. They can they can kind of use for marketing to build marketing materials, right? They get screenshots from it or whatever. It's got to be a full working build, but they're gonna take that demo build and use it to generate interest in your game. One of the things we can do with GitHub is all of our build tracking, how we do the builds by using branches, can be all tracked on GitHub. And we can use issues and milestones, like I showed you guys a few weeks ago, on GitHub to do all that tracking for you without using anything like Trello. You don't have to use Trello or Microsoft Project or anything. Everything can be done on GitHub. Now, is that okay for more complex projects? Probably not. But for your little project, it might be okay, right? Because you don't have a lot of stuff. I mean, you could certainly use Microsoft Project if you wanted to, and it does support Agile methodology as well as waterfall, but I think it's overkill. We talked about version control. The main version control we use outside of this indie kind of studio that we're kind of play acting on is Perforce, actually. Perforce is more used in the industry, especially with Unity, right? GitHub does not have great integration with Unity. And if you're using Unity and you want to use GitHub, you got to like turn Unity off, do your command line or UI, and then turn Unity back on again. Because Unity keeps track of things like meta files that prevent users from doing proper version control. And the other thing with Unity, I'm just mentioning Unity because we use this as a game engine, is you can't do proper version control within each scene. Each scene is almost like a container of its own. It's almost like a self-contained box. So if you and I are working on the same scene, one scene will overwrite the other one. You can't add stuff to the scene, and I can't add stuff to the scene in Unity. One will just override the other one. There is no way of working together on a single scene. It doesn't work, right? So whenever we work with Unity, I always tell people, if you're going to use GitHub, create new scenes, a copy of the other person's scene, that you can easily drag and drop from one scene to the other. That's the best way to do it. But the best way, of course, is to use Perforce. And also with GitHub, with Unity, they have that cloud build service now, right? Collab. Where you can collaborate and build stuff online with Unity. Okay. The idea of a proof of concept, I mean, we're past that now. That was your first playable. So we're going to think that that would have been your proof of concept. If you were innovators, if you were an entrepreneurs, and you had a little gaming studio, and you were going to kind of come up with your proof of concept, that probably would have been your first playable. Now, I would have asked for more stuff. But now what we're saying is your proof of concept is your alpha. Your alpha release coming up is the thing that's going to make or break you. It's still worth 15% of your final grade, 5% for your presentation, which is going to be primarily an update. Please listen to what I'm asking you, because I'm going to ask for this in your presentation. I don't want to see, by the way, here, it's me and my team, and we're making this new game that you've heard about already. I don't want that. Here's my name is so-and-so, my name is Tom. I'm working with my team and making this fantastic game, and here's an update from the last time you saw us when we did our first playable. Here's the stuff that we had a problem with. Here's the stuff we added in. Here are the things that we were missing. Here's what's going to happen next time. All right? So you're really talking about an update, and then demo your game. And it's got to be a good demo. Your alpha should be a really good demo, how your game works. More time and attention is going to be towards your demo and less in your PowerPoint in this particular case. Okay? Just letting you know. That's what's happening. It's coming up. All right, are we good with this part? All right, there's also the idea of daily builds, and usually daily builds are, there's two ways of doing that. Usually in a larger environment, more professional environment, a AAA game studio, you might have automated daily builds. Automated daily builds happen from the system, so anything you've worked on that day becomes the part of the build, and it gets saved automatically in your version control system. Of course, we don't have automated daily builds here for you, and I'd be really happy with a weekly build. That would be good enough for me. If you guys do one weekly build over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think you're going to meet your requirements. Okay, and what I mean by that is, get your master branch, create another branch 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3, wherever you are right now in your cycle, and then work on your functionality. Put your functions, pick from those user stories, that example, all the features that you want to add in, and any bugs you want to fix, and then do that build. So the role of the QA person is going to test that build, right? What's the difference between play testing? I'm just going to put it up there right now. Play testing and unit testing, right? Or testing in general, QA, right? What's the difference? There's a difference between the two.
Anybody have an idea?
What was the second option?
So playtesting is one, and then there's QA testing. What's the difference?
Is one like making sure the game works how it's actually supposed to work, and then the other one is making sure it's actually fun.
Yes, that's perfect, right? So play testing, you want to, the answer is you want to make sure it's fun, right? Fun means it's got to be challenging, but not too challenging, right? Fun means it's accomplishing the goal of your, fun, I'll tell you right now, is one of the most hardest or the hardest deliverables to achieve, right? Your team might think it's fun, your play testers might say it's fun, but then when you take it out to the greater population, they might think it sucks, right? In fact, it's a risk. I would say it's a medium to high risk that your game is probably not going to be fun for the majority of people out there, right? It's because there's so many ideas of what fun is. So that's one thing. So the role of the QA. Now they talk about here a new build only every 3 to 4 days. During alpha, I want you to do a new build every week, like I said. Okay, so take that away. If I'm going to ask you how often do I want you to do a build during your iterations, the maximum is every week, 1 week at the minimum. Yeah.
So when I say new build, I'm assuming it's a new branch.
A new branch or new iteration. Yeah. So I only want you to do 3 iterations maximum around there. If you want to do more, you can. But 3, you should aim for 3 iterations for each of your phases, each of your milestones. So 3 builds. So 3 chances to add features, 3 chances to fix bugs. That's what I'm saying, okay?
That's kind of similar to 3 branches.
Like 3 branches, yes. I would say it would be 3 branches, yeah. And you might sound that it's a lot, but actually it's not that many. You got to think about this. If your first playable should have had about 3 branches. Now I didn't talk about branches in your first playable. We didn't get to it, but it should have. And in the future, when you guys do this game production course again, it's going to be different, right? 100%. So my recommendation is use GitHub from the very beginning, create your branches right from the get-go, work on your feature sets, and track everything carefully, right? And then when you get to your first playable and you're moving from your first playable to your alpha, again, do about 3 branches. And then again for your beta. And then again for your final release candidate, right? So you're looking at, if you took about four releases with 3 iterations, that's at least 12 iterations of your code. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good idea. And each iteration has a chance for testing. Each iteration has a chance for bug fixing. Each iteration has a chance to improve, right? Because what we're looking at here, guys and girl, is continuous improvement. That's the idea. We're looking, sorry, but there's only one girl, yeah.
And when you merge 2 branches, does not branch disappear?
No, my branch didn't disappear. It just stopped. So what happened was when I merged the branches, my master branch continued. I merged it into master. By the way, you can merge into other branches too, if you want to. So I can have a branch, and I create a branch from a branch, and I can merge back into that branch, like a sub-project or a bug fix, right, of that branch, right? But it merges back into the master, and the master continues. This branch stops. It just stops production. You haven't done anything to this branch anymore, right? So there's nothing else to add into it. It can stay there. You can delete the branch if you want. I don't. I keep all my branches online, right? So I can see them, and I can go back and do a comparison, a diff, right, between one branch and another. So this is my second branch, right? I merge back into master. I might have 10 more of these, right? It's okay. It's not going to make GitHub crazy. Don't worry. All we care about is at the end is your master branch, okay? And that's the one that's going to be the one that's going to be part of your release. Your release is going to be back to your master. So every time I do, if I needed 2 iterations to get to my master branch, and let's say here I was going to release my first playable, right? I don't care about these other branches. They're there. All I care about is my master branch. And that's the only branch I'm going to be looking at, by the way, right? All right. We talked about automated build, and nightly builds are produced by the server. Let's talk about build notes, and then we'll take a short break. So what are build notes? So imagine, when we have a release of a major product, let's say Visual Studio Code. We just had a release today or earlier this week where it was the May release, actually. The May update. We're in June, right? They're behind. But in their May release, they had a bunch of release notes, right? Here's all the release notes. These are all the things they changed, right? Well, just like we have release notes, and release notes detail all the features that were added, all the bugs that were killed, right? Bugs that were removed, found and removed, right? That's what's in your release notes. And the same thing goes with your build notes. Build notes, in real life, what we'd be doing with them is you'd be adding it into your document. You'd be documenting your build notes in a build log.
right? And that would go back into your GDD. So your game design document, think about it as rolling up all the notes and all the, not only the design, but also the progress of your application that you're building, right? Inside there, you have a build note for all the features you added for that particular iteration. Now, there's different build notes for different people. Some people, there's some build notes that you give to management, and there's some build notes that go to the development team. The development team looks for things that they need to fix. And usually the build notes can come from your QA people. So let's say, for example, we come to an iteration, right, at the end of a release, right? And that release, for this iteration, this build, right, as an example, we have a bunch of notes that came from QA saying, you know, we found 2 bugs. That's in our last release. We have to do another iteration, another build to fix those bugs, right? And you're not going to just do an iteration for bugs. I mean, you could. You want to make an iteration for adding more features. So you can do both. You know, kill the bugs and add new features, right? Those things that you did, almost like a commit history, is going to be your build notes. And you're going to do a summary of all the things that you put in.
So build notes are more for the playtesting part of it. It's not for the is it fun part too much.
No, it's not for is it fun. It's for what you've changed in your build, right? Anything that you changed, added, removed, all that stuff. Like something didn't work and you took it out because the playtester said it was boring, took it out. That could mean what you responded to your playtester, right?
Right.
But for the most part, you're killing bugs and adding features. Okay, that's what I want you to think about. You might have build notes for management, and they're going to be slightly different. Build notes for management might detail things like your progress. What's my progress in terms of, am I getting closer to my alpha release? You know, as an example, am I having? Is there a risk? You can talk about risks and opportunities with your build notes for management, and they're going to be different than the build notes you send to, you know, to your developers. And again, what you want to try and do is talk about if there's a feature that came down from management. Let's say management's going to get a demo build too, right? Let's say, for example, you give me a demo build, and I said to you guys, you know what, I really don't like this. I think I want you to add this, if I told you that. Now, I'm not going to be that demonstrative in the class. I'm not going to tell you what to do in terms of your build. But if I said to you, you know what, I don't like the way your game turns. I want you to take that out, right? Saying, right? That's a kind of a key thing of your game. But let's suppose I told you, I don't like it. I want you to take it out. That would be something that come down from the management in the build note saying, it's not working for us. We don't like it. Can you think about another gimmick, right? And then, you know, your response might be going back to the development team and saying, look, the management really thinks this is unfun, right? And feedback from the customer is that they don't like it. Can we change it? And that would be a major build change. It would be a major change. And you'd make definitely a separate branch for that. You might also make a whole other repository from it. I'm telling you right now, because depending on how drastic the departure is, it's not just a branch. So we talked about testing, and we haven't really talked about testing schedule too much, but really, whenever we do testing, there is a scientific structure to it. Usually you have a test schedule, right? And now for you guys, I mean, how difficult is it going to be? Test every week is what I'm going to tell you. That's your schedule, right? So once you do your build, your responsibility is to have your QA guy test everything, right? And that means both he's going to be, or she's going to be both the QA tester and the play tester at the very minimum. Now, you could also include the other people in your team as play testers to give feedback to your build, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but that test should happen every week. If you guys don't do weekly testing, then what's going to happen is you're going to build something out, your build is going to fail, right? You're going to do an iteration, and then you do another iteration on the broken build, and then you're going to go down a path where you have a lot of bugs that you're going to have to fix, almost like a bug iteration, right? A bug fix iteration. So plan your testing and make sure that it's part of your weekly cycle. All right, now you're going to say, Tom, we don't do any weekly cycle. We get together, and if we have time, we build something. If not, we do nothing, right? It's crazy. I'm telling you right now, you guys got to get more organized. I know this isn't the only course you have, right? But it's going to come to bite you in alpha. Alpha is a much more challenging release. It's not like the first playable. There's lots of stuff that you need to do, and you need to get cracking like ASAP. And you need to include your testing. Some of the best updates I got in alpha was our test. Here's our test, here's our plan, and here's our actual. And what you can do is something with Agile is something called test-driven development, where you kind of have, you build up a test first for your user story. So example would be, for my user wants, you know, for me to get feedback that he's getting hurt, right? How do I create a test for that? Well, does the UI update? As an example, that can be a test.
In the beginning, it would be no, red. It would fail the test. There is no update for the UI because the UI doesn't exist, right? We build the UI to make it turn to green, right? So now we do get an update from the UI when the user gets hit. Okay, cool. And then we refactor. And we refactor after the test passes to make that code more efficient. That's what we're talking about, right? So this idea of red-green refactor is part of unit testing, right? So from a testing perspective, your QA tester should approach things like that. Can I make this test fail? He should try and break your build as much as possible by actually playing your game and seeing if he can break the game, right? And take notes if he does. If the user can break the build somehow, they'll break the game, crash the game or whatever, or cheat somehow, where there's no intention to cheat, then I think that feedback should go back as a build note back to the production team. All right, so your testing schedule, your testing plans. What I need from you guys is think about these defects. The idea of testing and quality assurance is identifying and basically correcting defects in your code. That's what it's all about, okay? And I'm going to ask you that question in the exam. What's the purpose of it, right? Anyone have any questions around this idea, right? Because these are the main points I really wanted to kick at today, right? So again, builds, we're going to use several iterations. I want you to think in your mind, in our case, build equals iteration, in our case, right? In a larger scenario, in a AAA game company where you have a much more complex game, it will not. It could be each build is a sub-iteration, right? It could be each build could be one feature. It could be each build is one minor change. We don't know, right? It really depends on the scope of the game and how complex it is. But for us, one build, one iteration. Okay. I don't think I want to talk about too much here, but one thing like we mentioned was that playtesting is all about fun factor. And I want you to think about when you do your testing, guys who are doing testing, whoever the QA testing is, it's not just saying it's fun. That is crappy feedback, right? What is fun? Is it fun to jump? Is it fun? Be more specific when you do your feedback to your team, right? You know, it's really fun. I really like the mechanic of my ship turning in space. So my aliens are coming from a different direction. It gives me more challenge. Fun, right? I like that. That's better feedback than it's fun or it's not fun. It doesn't make any sense. And the other thing to say is this: if there's some feature you're checking out, right? Did it work or not? Be scientific. Feature was supposed to show me my user in the user interface. It's supposed to show me the health of the user. Does it come up? Yes or no? Does it? Yes. Check. Does it not? No. Don't try and say, well, it kind of does. It's either yes or no, right? So again, I'm looking for a demo next time we get together from an alpha perspective. I'm looking for a demo more than anything else. But during testing, we produce demos for different departments in a larger organization. We might have a demo for marketing. We might have a demo for art. We might have a demo for developers. We might have a demo for executives. You could have many different types of demos, and they may be focused on different aspects of the game. For example, in your art department, you might have a demo that's cinematic if you have a cinematic part of your game. And in the marketing side, you might want to demo the gameplay. It really depends on the kind of game and what you're selling.
Question. It's more of a curiosity, really. Is it really common in the industry nowadays to still do playable demos for the public? Or is it all like internal stuff, like to show investors, marketing? Because I remember being a kid and downloading the demo for each game before buying it. Right? We don't really do that anymore as a consumer.
We do. You can do it if you want, but usually it's usually a beta test, right? Nowadays it's more beta testing. You download the beta version, the playable, or what do they call it? The open beta now.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. So, for example, I usually try, if I see an open beta up online, I'll try it. I'll download it. It's usually like 12 gigs these days, right? I'll download 12 or 15 gigs, try the open beta, and I'll give feedback. I do that, right? Because I like it. What was it that I liked before? That I liked recently? Ghost Recon Wildlands. I did the open beta for that one, right? It was okay. I think Ubisoft had an interesting way of doing things. It was a destructible world. They got a lot of negative feedback from Bolivia, right, for doing that game. I don't know if you heard about that, right? But it was very interesting to do this open beta. right? And it said the open beta will finish this particular time. So that's your demo nowadays, right? And they use feedback from us as users to say, hey, I liked it or I didn't, so that they can do any last bug fixes, any last. They're asking us to break the game basically, right? Or if there's things we didn't like about it. All right, but demos nowadays, I mean, the free version compared to the paid for version, it only exists in mobile games. Mobile games, it exists everywhere. If you want to play the free version, it maybe opens up 2 levels, and then that's the demo. And then if you want to play the rest, you get to pay to play, right? All right, so there's different kinds of testing that we do for each of the releases. Again, one of the testing that we're going to be doing for beta, after beta is, again, the idea is that we want to fix everything up and get to that release candidate. And the release candidate's all about finding these last few bugs, doing your finishing touches, tweaking everything that needs to be tweaked, and putting it out. By the way, sometimes you can't fix the bug because it's too big. So what they do is they release it anyway, right nowadays, right? How many games have you seen like that, right? No Man's Sky, right? That was a crazy bad release, right? But they're coming out with No Man's Sky 2 now here. Yeah, yeah.
They didn't even make the first one.
I'm just telling you, man. I'm telling you, they're coming out. And the reason for this is because they just, it's better for us to get things out nowadays right to the public, get some money going, right? Even if the game is crap, than to worry about if it's going to take a long time to fix the build, right? And especially if it's some kind of bug that you can't fix, you just kind of accept it and move on, I guess. That's the industry these days. Is it right? No, I don't think it's right. I think the better games fix as many bugs as they can ahead of time. But think about all the modern games that have come out with lately. And I want to talk about Battlefield, Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 1, and now they're coming with Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 1, the first release was terrible, right? And then they built up to it, right? What other games were like that? There was a lot of games. What was that? Elder Scrolls Online, right? It was terrible in the beginning. Now it's a little better, right? And there's a lot of other games like that. And the reason for it is because they want to get it to market as fast as possible. That's what it's about. So yes, we want to test. We want to have these deliverables that we want to meet. But sometimes you got to kind of say the serenity prayer and move on, right? And I say that in the most facetious way possible because I don't agree with it. I know it's a dollars and cents thing in the industry, but it's something that we do a lot, right?
There was a thing in one of the PowerPoint presentations you showed us from the groups last year.
Yeah.
Where it was like, feature, bug, feature will be a feature. I turn bugs into features.
Yes, I know they've done that, and I don't exactly agree with that. I mean, it is kind of a workaround, right? And they kind of do this they work around this idea of, okay, I've got this this group of bugs, and what if we can make it so that it's fun to play the bug, right? It's just like it's part of the game now, right? It makes the game quirky. That's a nice workaround. It's a creative way of accepting the bug and accepting the risks associated with the bug, as opposed to working on it, spending hours and money to delete the bug. All right, so that's really it in a nutshell. I don't want to talk about too much. We talked about this idea of pass-fail format, which is, and I want you to remember this for the exam, please, red, green, refactor. Red, green, refactor. We use test-driven development in the industry nowadays a lot, and the idea that we're creating what we do is we create a test first before we even have any functionality, and we create the functionality around the test. It's a different way of doing things. It's almost like some people think it's backwards, but actually it's the way, the mentality, the methodology is a lot different. And that's it for this one. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, I want to hit on some key points of the other one, and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, I want to let you guys go.
Time.